Hello, ladies and gentlemen, for Lotus Chat. We are back, and my name is Laura Benson, and I'm here with Zian. Hello, Zian.
Hi, Laura.
It's so good to see you. I'm so glad you're here. We have a great topic tonight. We have Lotus Chat episode 40. We thought maybe we needed champagne or something because this is a real
Woohoo! Episode 40.
celebration. I mean, episode 40 of Lotus Chat. And thank you to our listeners. We really appreciate you being so faithful to come and listen to us each week. The topic tonight is the power of acknowledgement. And so Zian and I are going to kind of talk about acknowledgement. And you may be thinking to yourself, why? What? But I think that it's kind of something that we don't do enough of in our daily lives. And that's acknowledging people. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So Zian, are you ready for tonight?
Yes, I love this topic.
Okay, so I'm going to start and ask you, what is acknowledgement?
This word acknowledgement is incredibly powerful. And in fact, I think at least in my world and the people around me, we just don't use it as often as it, should be or could be. But it's incredibly powerful. And for me, I think acknowledgement is really validating that person in front of you at a level so deep that it touches their bones, their blood, their soul, and to be able to really focusing on that person, focusing out and focusing on them to validate at that level. It's just amazing to watch. So I think acknowledgement is focusing out and really validating someone to that deep level. What do you think, Laura?
Wow, I think you just took the words right out of my mouth. I don't know what to say to that. For me, acknowledgement is probably a little more challenging. It's always wonderful when you acknowledge someone that likes you, but sometimes we have to acknowledge people that maybe don't feel the same way about us. And it has to be sincere and it has to be heartfelt. It can't be phony. It can't be trying to manipulate somebody. It has to be, I see you, I hear you, and I'm affirming the person that you are. And it's sincere, and I want to acknowledge or I want to highlight who you are or something that you have done in a very positive, affirming way. So I think acknowledgement really is pretty deep in that it has to be sincere, has to be affirming, and it has to be for somebody that you want to show they are seen and they are heard.
That's a tricky one when you mention about acknowledging someone that probably I don't like, or acknowledging someone that probably do not feel the same way. That's a really tricky one. You hit a point there.
I had to do that this week. I had to acknowledge someone very lovingly, very sincerely, who didn't have the same feelings about me. And I knew that going in, but I had to be neutral about the reaction. The reaction was irrelevant. It had to be from my heart. It had to be what I felt. And I wanted to acknowledge that person for who they are. So I don't mean it to sound like I'm just like a martyr, but sometimes we have to go past ourselves. And instead of saying, what am I going to get out of it? Say, how can I affirm someone that really needs it or deserves it?
I love that, Laura. I love what you said about the feedback is irrelevant. And I think that is the main difference, one of the main difference between acknowledgement versus thank you, right? Because the common word that we use now is thank you. But thank you also implies that you are thanking someone for their actions, that the reaction is relevant, and in fact, you are thanking them for the action that they have done for you. If they have not done anything for you, you wouldn't have said thank you. Hence, it is more of, like reciprocity, and because someone did A, you're saying B, And hence the thanking is purely on the actions, but acknowledgement is on their ways of being and the way they show up and their character and their attributes. And, something that like you said just now, make the person feel heard, seen, loved, and validated at such a deep level. And very important, I think, the ability for us to acknowledge strengthens our capacity to really create the connection at that deep level.
Yes, I agree completely. Why do you think acknowledgement is so important, Zian?
Because I think acknowledgement is removing myself from that conversation. It's not about me. It's about that person. It's not about, like what you said, the reaction, right? Because sometimes we say thank you and words of appreciation with a accidental motive of manipulation, and manipulation is a big word, but more like, you kind of hope you're going to get something back, right? Yeah. But acknowledgement is nothing about that. It's about the other person. It has nothing to do with me. So I think it's very hard, and it is a culture that is not common. That's why it's also hard. It's awkward. I have to admit, it's very awkward. Yeah, that's why it's hard. What about you? Why is it hard for you?
Well, first of all, I want to say one of my passions is to change the workplace. And the workplaces that I visit in my work they've forgotten the art of acknowledgement. They really know they're like 100% spot on when it comes to telling someone what they did wrong or blaming someone. They got that down. But it takes 8 times to acknowledge someone to overcome one negative blame. And so I'm trying to change the workplace to make people feel more productive, to make them feel more accepted. And that's what acknowledgement does. I acknowledge that you did this and this affected all of these people. And I just want to affirm you. And I want to let you know that I see you and I appreciate that. I think that when we implement acknowledgement sincerely, lovingly, and neutrally, meaning there's no manipulation, there's no agenda, what we're doing is we're investing in someone. We're saying, we really appreciate you and we affirm you. Think about how different our workplaces would be. Think about how different our families would be. Think about how different our places of worship would be, or our community groups would be, if we were just affirming and acknowledging people. So for me, it's important in changing the tone of where we play, work, and live. And we can't do that if we're waiting to see what we're going to get out of it. And so for me, I think acknowledgement can be transpiring, and it can change our whole culture and our lives if we're willing to do it. But it's one person at a time doing that.
Yeah, that's so beautiful, Laura. But I'm curious, do you think acknowledgement and appreciation is the same?
I think that you can acknowledge someone and appreciate what you're acknowledging them for. You can appreciate them as a person. You can appreciate the effects of what they did or who they are. So I think appreciation is kind of in there. Acknowledgement is also you're publicly acknowledging them, but you're also appreciating them in that process. If we don't add that, then it could be a negative thing. It could be, what if we're acknowledging something for someone that they don't want to be acknowledged for? If someone gets arrested and put in jail, we can acknowledge, hey, there's someone who's been in jail. They may not want that to be acknowledged. So I think the acknowledgement and the appreciation go hand in hand, because the acknowledgement means I am acknowledging you and I appreciate the effects.
Yes. So what I'm hearing is acknowledgement is a form of appreciation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I want to share this story about my first, at least as I remember it, I can't remember the last time I did it, but my first public acknowledgement to a client. And I can tell you the feeling was extremely awkward because here, the place that I grew up in Malaysia, it's not common to use this word acknowledgement. And to be able to use that in public, it was a very awkward moment for me. I did thought of switching it to the word thank you, but I realized it's not expressing what I'm feeling. So in that speech that I gave her in front of her family and friends at her book launch, I acknowledged that person, the client, for who she is and how she has shown up. And I didn't realize the impact of that until she sent me a heartfelt message after the event. And then I realized, wow, this is what acknowledgement is, because it has nothing to do with me. You know, it's not about what I say or how awkward I felt. It has nothing about that, but it's all about how it lands, how it reaches to her soul. And I believe very strongly how it gave her that confidence moving forward, you know?
Oh, that's beautiful, Deanne. One thing we haven't touched on, though, with acknowledgement is acknowledging ourselves. And I think that that's something that we shouldn't let slide by, in that sometimes we are honestly acknowledging others and building that rapport, but we also have to positively acknowledge ourselves. We're really good about being hard and critical of ourselves, but I think it's important to acknowledge the person you are, the person you've become, the things that you've overcome. So don't forget that acknowledgement can also be to yourself. Not in a bragging way, not in a narcissistic way, but in a way that you're saying, I just want to acknowledge the growth. I really had to do that this week. I took a trip this week where it was an area that was pretty painful from my past. And I had to acknowledge the growth in me and how I've changed and how I have grown inside. And so that acknowledgement for myself was really important to see that measurement. I just want to let the audience know, if you want to know more about these topics, look at Zian's Instagram website and mine. Zian is on her little nameplate. Mine is at Mammoth Edge Coaching. And we talk a little bit more about this if you have an interest. So please check us out on Instagram.
Yes, and I also want to take the opportunity to acknowledge you, Laura. I want to acknowledge you for being an amazing friend. I want to acknowledge you for being reliable. I want to acknowledge you for your consistency in showing up in Lotus Chat. And I want to acknowledge you for your authenticity, for always sharing your thoughts, opinions, and owning your voice. And I'm complete.
Oh man, I feel that makes me feel so good. Well, Zian, I could acknowledge you all night long, but I acknowledge the friendship that you bring. You bring a friendship of just true appreciation and acknowledgement and love. I acknowledge the mother that you are. You are a full-time working mom, and yet you are always putting your kids first, and I love that about you. I acknowledge you for a level of high standard that you put yourself at. You don't put others there, but you're saying, I need to show up, and I need to show up as my full self in the best way possible. And you always deliver. And I want to lastly acknowledge you for holding me high and saying, I hold you high because I know you're there. And so I feel the same way about you, Zian. You are amazing. And I see you, I hear you, and I appreciate you.
Thank you. I accept. And wow, that was so profound, Laura. So I just wanted to say to all viewers out there that, you know, to be able to acknowledge and be acknowledged is such a huge, incredible gift that you can give to someone. So don't hesitate. And, you know, it's not thank you, it's not appreciate, but it's the word acknowledgement. And that is incredibly powerful. So I really want to encourage viewers out there who is listening to this to really acknowledge someone in your life this week.
Oh, I love that. Yes. And the challenge is you can acknowledge anyone, but if you can acknowledge someone that may not see you in the same way you see them, do it anyway.
That's a tricky one. I'll take that challenge.
It's worth it.
Yeah. Any closing remarks, Laura?
No, I think we have covered this. I hope that our audience appreciates and acknowledges the topic. And I hope it changes the workplace and the place you live by acknowledging people and yourself rather than pointing out their faults.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And in case you're an introvert listener out there, I have to share this, that sometimes not only expressing it verbally is a form of acknowledgement, but truly listening and being present and holding the space for someone is a huge acknowledgement altogether. You know, and with that, I just want to say thank you so much for watching this week. And if you're on YouTube, click on subscribe. And if you're on Spotify, click follow. But most importantly, we loved viewer requests and we want to hear your thoughts. So email us at lotuschatworldwide@gmail.com. In the next topic, we will be discussing about the pitfalls of resistance. And as usual, the question I have for you this week is, who are you going to acknowledge this week? Signing off, I'm Zian.
And I'm Laura. Take care and have a great week. Thank you.
Bye.